MG, he did my podcast. If you go on my Patreon, he did my podcast.
Oh, this is regarding Tom Myers,
Right.
which is a New York comic that
He's not. He's a Baltimore comic.
Baltimore comic, but he works
You
at
can't
the
really call him a
Stand.
comic. You can't really.
Yeah.
He does. No, he does Frantic. That's it. That's all he does.
Okay, so for all the fans, just check this out. It's in regards to another comedian.
He does a show at the Stand called Frantic. It's the free show they do on Monday nights. It's after Legion of Skanks does their show. And I met him because they're both on the show Frantic. And I knew him from Nick Mullen's podcast, Come Town, and everything. He seemed like a nice dude, like well-adjusted and everything. He seems like a nice dude, well-adjusted and all that stuff. And I had him on my podcast, and I thought he would be like in on the joke of what Come Town does, but he's not. He's not. Tom Myers is not in on the joke. Like you see him on my pod, he's not in on the joke. It's kind of like Stuttering John. He's like the Stuttering John of how Stuttering John is to Uncle Rico. He is Stuttering John to like Come Town. Like he doesn't get the joke, but he doesn't understand that if Come Town and Nick Mullen and Stavros doesn't talk about him, no one knows who the hell he is. Like everyone that's doing like Legion of Skanks, like everyone that works for Gas Digital, they're like, oh, Tom Myers on. They like run down because they want to watch Tom Myers. He's not in on the joke. He is seriously not in on the joke. Like, see him on the podcast. It's on my Patreon, patreon.com/Ray DeVito. But Tom Myers did my podcast. I thought he would be like, I thought he'd be like in on the joke. Like, yeah, I get it. But he's not. He's not in on the joke. And it's like, that's when it's weird. Like, oh, you're not getting the sarcasm. You're not getting.
All right. So why are we watching this?
But I like him. He's a nice guy.
Hang on,
He's
Ray.
a nice guy. And then he's.
I want to say that Tom, because I knew you, because we've done Frantic together a few times.
Yeah.
And then so we did Frantic a few times. But the one Monday I was doing podcasts at Gas Digital, and then they do Legion of Skanks at the Stand, and then the staff like they're like, oh, Tom Myers. I was on the show. They didn't run down to go see me, but they're like, oh, Tom Myers is on the show. Like you have a fan base, people that are drawn to you, and a lot of it. And I know the backstory a little bit. I'm going to talk about you in Come Town, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
I like Nick and Stavros, are my buddies, and I like that podcast. But it seems like it started out from a night where it was over a drink ticket, or a night that you were doing your thing or recording an album.
It was a CD recording, and Nick Mullen was on the was on the bill. Someone else booked the show, which is why he was on there. But go ahead.
Okay, and then so it seemed like it came from like a place of like not coolness when they first started, but then it seems to be endearing. Like they genuinely like you. Like they genuinely like you. What's your relationship now with those guys? Because I'm friends with Nick and Stav, and I think they're hilarious. Adam, I don't even know if he's a comedian. If he is a comedian and we've done shows together, and if I hear a joke, like I think he's hilarious on Come Town. But yeah, those guys are good dudes. You're a good dude. Did you ever think about doing stuff together?
No. Reason I haven't is because like I've never actually been close with them to start with. Like we've just kind of run into each other in the comedy scenes in Baltimore and DC. They've done some shows together, obviously. And since they've started that podcast, they've since gone on and just made up stories about me that weren't true. Like I made a racially insensitive comment about an audience because they didn't laugh at one joke or something like that. And my impression of them is, if you tell me they're endeared themselves to me since then, okay, fine, that's your opinion. But whenever I hear them talk like that, I have a pretty good bullshit meter in my head, and it goes off whenever they do stuff like that. So I just don't trust them. Like there's like I'll do, like there's some podcasts I'll do and some I won't. Like I get offers to do podcasts.
Right.
Like it seems like every week, and then I go ahead and and vet it. Like this one time, someone sent me a text through Instagram, said, "Hey, I'm a big fan, want you to do my podcast, blah, 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 blah." So I looked at the profile, looked at the podcast, determined it wasn't something I wanted to do. And I went ahead and told them that, and they said, "Okay, fine." And like, I get the same thing. Like when I try and book guests for my podcast, either they don't respond or they say, "No, thank you." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I just chalk it up and then leave it at that. So this one person, after I said no, they went ahead and did an entire episode where they just shat on me. So I was like, "Okay, I made the right decision then." So,
yeah.
Like there's
Just because you declined an offer?
Yeah.
Just because you decline an offer, that's not something. That's not grounds to.
They started off saying they were a big fan of mine, and then they talked about on their show how I was a piece of shit. So it was like,
honeypot.
I know even Adam's like, "Damn, you're."
Yeah, I kind of want to know the name, but at the same time, I don't want to give them any light if they came at you in that way.
Put it in the private chat so you can read it.
On it.
Yeah,
I like
but
to know.
like that's not cool. I'm just saying, like, I'm at a place where, like, trust me, I see friends of mine fighting, and I used to be friends with both of them. And then, what do you call it? I used to be friends with both of them, and now one of the person hates my guts because I'm still friends with the other. But it's like, all right, instead of trying to mend stuff, it seems like a lot of people. So I'm just coming here trying to see, like, maybe you can mend, because I do like those guys, and I think they're very funny dudes. And I mean, I don't think that podcast exists anymore. I think they quit doing the podcast. Anyways, but I do know.
I think they redid it as
rebranded it
name, and then I always just I take the Ron White philosophy where it's like you can take a pile of shit and dress it up, like put some nice clothes on it, throw some cologne on it. It's still a pile of shit. So that's the way I feel about that podcast and those hosts.
And I had him on my podcast, and I thought he would be like in on the joke of what Come Town does, but he's not. He's not. Tom Myers is not in on the joke. Like you see my.
Okay, in on the joke is we have 36 minutes of Ray talking about you on various podcasts here.
Oh,
and
Lord.
It all goes to in on the joke is the thing that he keeps talking about. And
What's the joke? What's the joke?
He never specifies. I mean, I don't want to speculate as to what's in Mr. DeVito's mind. God knows I do not want to peek inside there, but he never explains it. But he suggests whatever it is, he suggests I should lean into it.
Hey, Tom, this is what's on his mind. That's it.
Oh.
Go ahead.
I do that anyway, so big deal. But yeah, it's like, okay, just explain what it is. And from a lot of the clips I've seen of Ray over the years, he's not good at it. He's not good at specifics. He's not a very detail oriented person unless he repeats himself over and over again.
Sheckler, I was going to ask him. Oh yeah, I already checked. Yeah, he didn't have a new Ray. I checked today. I forgot. I already checked.
I check every day.
I check it. First thing I do when I wake up, see if there's a new Sheckler. No. Oh, I know what I was going to say about Sheckler. The fact that Ray, I don't know if this is true, but Ray said Tom Myers isn't in on the joke. But Ray is in on the joke. Yet he wants to hire a lawyer to shut down the Franklin Sheckler factory. I mean, Ray, is Tom Myers hiring a lawyer to shut down Cumtown and these guys who quote unquote troll him? You can't hire a lawyer, Ray. It's a joke. That means you're not in on the joke, Ray. Ray keeps saying Tom Myers isn't in on it. He's not hiring a lawyer. At least he gets the joke a little bit. Ray's hiring a lawyer.
Well, Ray's only saying he's not in on the joke because he probably heard Shane Gillis and Cumtown say that. So he's like, I got to say it to look cool. Tom Myers doesn't get the joke. He doesn't get people who are making fun of him. Meanwhile, we're all making fun of Ray.